So this is the Actors Talk with Gabby Kennedy, and I am in beautiful Elmont today at ILeadbydesign Gallery Studio, Studio Gallery, and I am sitting here amongst absolutely beautiful original art. I really hope that this camera lens does it justice to be able to, if you could feel the energy in this space of being in an artist studio where all the creation is done, then you would just know what I'm talking about. I cannot explain it, but the energy here is really great, and I am joined by I Lead by Design, who has created this beautiful art.
Thank you.
An artist, a one of a kind soul, and I'm so happy again having a full circle moment here today. So, Ebony, thank you for joining us. I know I always start off with gratitude, but I'm so grateful.
Thank you for having me. And same thing here. I always like to start off with gratitude, and that gratitude starts from the ancestors who jumped off the ship, the ancestors whose shoulders we stand on now. We pay tributes to them. We thank them
Absolutely.
for providing that opportunity for us, 2024, to be here, to be a part of a culture that doesn't fully embrace us, but we love it so much that we critique it fluently, and we challenge it to live up to the ideals that it calls its own philosophy. So I thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And guys, Ebony Thompson and I are friends. So this conversation will be one of a kind. It's just nothing like it to be able to sit here in this space with him. So when we get started, first thing we need to do is like, woosah, right?
Long story.
Right? We are chilled at the Actors
Yeah,
Talk, so we just gonna take it easy and have some good conversation.
I'm good with
All
that. That's fine.
right.
Yes.
So recently or yesterday, you went to a Buju Banton concert.
Yes.
I want to talk about that because I can only imagine what that experience was like for you. So can you tell us a little bit about it?
Man, that was a powerful, powerful experience for me. So powerful to the point where it almost brought tears to my eyes. And at the end of the show, I turned to Katrina and I said to her, if I was to die today, I will feel fulfilled with this through this experience,
Gosh.
because just being able to experience Buju, 15 years he has not been in the United States. He had his issues, but knowing Buju since the 90s in Brooklyn, Vanderveer, the park right in front of the McDonald's on Nostrand and Foster, Alba Mall, all those areas where as a young man he was growing up and trying to identify himself, and at that time of history he was a particular we were experiencing a certain type of Buju, and all through his experience to now you see the evolution from how he has transformed from
Mhm.
dancehall to the conscious reggae, and his love and passion for the people in New York. He almost had like a messianic aura around him that was inspiring and reinvigorating as well, because
Yeah.
since my sister Rosalind passed away, I've not been able to create anything with art, but just being in his presence yesterday just reignited a certain passion that
Ooh.
prompts me to want to come back and pick up a paintbrush and paint him from what I saw and what I experienced
That's
yesterday.
it.
So it was almost a life changing moment for me.
That's it.
Yeah.
Gosh. And there it is. Your
Yes.
next piece.
Amen.
There it is.
Amen.
When
Yep.
when when did your sister pass away?
Um, the Monday after Super Bowl. Yeah, I was on the phone with her on Sunday. Well, I was on the phone with them on Sunday.
2024.
Yeah, I was on the phone with them and just BSing, playing around. She's like, "Oh, I'm going to go downstairs and take a nap. I'm not feeling well." Okay, take your medicine and you'll be good. And then 1 a.m. on Monday morning, they rushed her to the hospital. 7 a.m. I get the call that she didn't make it. You know, that was my biggest fan.
Yeah.
She's Sag Queen in Facebook. She was my biggest fan. I will have an art exhibit in Timbuktu, and she will fly to go there just to support me. So
Yeah.
it left a mark on me, but we've got to continue to pursue life and
Yeah.
relive every moment for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to lose somebody like that, it does change you,
Yes.
and it's gonna change your art, but hopefully for the
For the
better.
better.
For the
Yeah.
better.
Mm-hmm.
Such is life. The journey of life is gonna just lead you to something great. And
Amen.
having that experience, just like you said last night, that was a
That
great
was that was
experience for
starting
you.
points, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's gonna lead to something good. So that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So when you riding, what do you listen to in your car? What type of music? A genre. What's your favorite genre?
My favorite genre. I'm a reggae guy, man.
Reggae.
I love reggae, and then now it's more Afro beats,
Oh
but
yeah.
it's not so much as the established artists that like Burna Boy and those guys. I'm going into Instagram and meeting artists like Determination. The younger kids from the poor African kids who are struggling to come up and they're making music. Those are the guys who seem to be inspiring me now. There's a young guy, Determination, who was born without use of his legs and he's on a wheelchair, and he would sit by the marketplace and sing his songs. And one of his lyrics, he talks about every journey begins with a step, but how how can I start my journey if I have the inability to walk? And then he challenges God and he asks God the question, you the great God who've created everything, you have to carry me. So those type of lyrics is what
Mm-hmm.
pricks my heart and inspires me to live life to the fullest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so where are you from? Where? Because I know that influences your art. I know that it.
That influences everything.
You're.
Everything of who I am, and
Yes.
I was born in Sierra Leone, West Africa, Freetown, and I left when I was about 13 years old during the inception of the what we now know as the Blood Diamonds War. My mother was already here. My real father was back home, and during the war, they were just trying to get young boys to become child soldiers and stuff like that. With my mother getting a whiff of that, was able to work with my uncles and stuff like that to get me into United States. So I was able to come here and learn life or learn the American life
Mm-hmm.
at age 15, 16, and I've been here since.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what is? I have a question for you
Uh-huh.
from my daughter.
Uh-oh.
She wants to know, out of all your artwork, what is your favorite one and why?
Actually, the one behind you.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I call this piece the valiant woman, right? And one of the reasons why this piece means so much to me is because during the time, it was during the election, the last election, and George Floyd. Then we had COVID and all that kind of stuff. There was so much emotions um,
Mm-hmm.
going on with the protests and stuff like that. And my love for black women. I'm very committed and dedicated to black women, and I see them as the mother of God, right? So as in Christian theology, we talk about Jesus Christ being God in person. And if this Jesus Christ is an Afro Semite, meaning an African Jew that was in the Middle East, and his mother was Mary, then his mother must have been an Afro Semite as well, a black woman. So then a black woman is actually the mother of God, right? But yet there are people who would not acknowledge that. I've got a lot of lash back on that. But
Mm-hmm.
that's the way I see women. I see black women as the mother of God. and I think they have lost their essence, or their essence have been stolen from them. So America, in all of its travail, in all of its challenges, racism, civil rights movement, slavery, and stuff like that, the black women have always been the one to pick up the pieces, the remnants of whatever is left after war, after the civil rights movement, and they've been able to take the torn fabric of the American ideal, of the American flag, and sew it back together.
That's why her fabric is
So
torn.
if you look at the way she wears the flag,
Yeah.
she covers herself with it, but the flag is all ripped up, but she finds a meaningful way to make it work. And then the background with all the broken glass, different colors, and it's through the trauma of the black women that every other race or every other minority group gets their footing. LGBTQ, the Hispanics, every other disadvantaged group benefits from the struggles of the black woman.
Yeah.
And so I exaggerated the thick lips, which now has often been over sexualized, the hair, the locks, and then the necklace, the red, yellow, and green, which is Afrocentric color from the Ethiopian roots with Emperor Selassie, the red being the bloodshed, the yellow or the gold being the sunshine, the green for the vegetation, and then I incorporated blue and white, which would make red, white, and blue the American ideal as well. So it's this interesting marriage that's going on with the Afrocentric culture, who we are, and this hybrid relationship we have, or this dysfunctional relationship we have with this union called America. So that's why that's one of my favorite pieces, because it tells a story.
A beautiful story too.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're gonna talk about more. We're gonna talk about another piece also. What if you could just take a minute and think about what is your definition of art? Art, like not an artist, not artwork, just art.
So for me, art, there's never a true definition. I learned that in the 11th grade, that we don't have a true definition of what art is, right?
Yeah.
So art is subjective to who the person is. For me, art has become a language, a means by which we communicate what the creator has put inside us. Every single one of us is engineered with a purpose and a destiny. And how do we communicate that to the public? How do we take what the creator has infused in us? I think in the book of Romans, you will hear me reference the Bible a lot. Not that I try to preach, but it's where I get the framework for my belief system and the philosophies that I share and hold in my life dear to me. So I think in Romans it talks about how we're engineered with everything we need to facilitate this life, right? So we are wired, or we are like a computer program. So if you're a MacBook, your operating system is iOS, whatever it is, iOS 16. So we have an imprint in us. How do we communicate that imprint to the world around us and influence it? We use art. Then what is art? It could be music. It could be the videography, because he is now the gatekeeper of history, because this video stays in the archives. 100 years from now, somebody's going to find that thing that we call a computer or SD card, and they're going to put it together, and they're going to see this interview, and you are going to become that historian that documented that.
Yeah.
And whatever lies society has tried to tell, or whatever the narrative in the future is going to be to dispel this moment, will be fact checked based on your documentation that you have today. So your show is that documentation. So you are the gatekeeper of history. So art has become that language that we use to express what the creator has put inside us. I hope that answers the question.
That does. That's a good answer, and
Yeah.
I know people can relate and connect with that. That was a real answer right there, and that's why it's important. Just like you said, this will be in history. It's important in these moments to show up as yourself authentically because somebody needs it just like that.
Yeah.
So that was your definition was really good.
And that's what you're doing. You're creating organic. We talked about that earlier. You're creating organic content, right?
Yeah.
There's no fluff. There's no script.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
nothing. It's really organic, and that's who you are. That's who I am. That's who he is as a videographer. And we recording this organic documentation.
Yeah.
It speaks volume to what you're doing, and I'm really proud of you, and I really appreciate you. You know that
Thank
already,
you.
but I can give you your flowers while you're still alive.
Yes.
You've done a tremendous job. I've watched
Thank
your
you.
life evolve from a young woman behind the bar to now, and in between that, we have chatted and we've talked about goals and aspiration, and here you are making that goal happen, making those aspirations happen, about all the things you wanted to be, how you pictured your family, how you pictured your kids, the type of life you wanted to provide for them. And I'm here looking at you and your kids. I'm like, oh snap, she made it happen. And that's exactly what she had envisioned.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I've become a part of that. I've been able to support that. I'm glad that you guys gave me that opportunity to be that friend for you all too.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for that.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful, especially people who know me from before I'm, who know me more, who know me deeper, because I'm an introverted person. So I don't talk a lot. Everybody don't know my life or where I came from or, what I was doing before. But, when I was in New York, I worked in Applebee's. I worked as a bartender. I enjoyed it. It was my living. When I was here, I was in a dollar cab one day and I had a cell phone. I don't even know if it flipped or not, but I had a cell phone and I had all of these people that I had connected with when I got here who were keeping me working. And I left my phone in the dollar cab.
Wow.
So Facebook, Instagram, no, there was no reaching out, getting messages. Hey, y'all, I lost my phone. Call me at this number. No, I lost everybody. And all of the people that were calling on me to come and say, hey, come model on this runway or come and do this show, they couldn't reach me. It felt like literally the end. I didn't have anybody. I didn't, my family's not here. I came here because a girl I went to school with was in Florida, and she was like, hey, my grandmother will rent you a room for $500 a month. I already had cards, a stack of cards of all of the agencies in New York. So I knew what I was going to do when I got here. But what else I was going to do, I didn't know. I didn't know what I was building, So when I got out here and I lost my phone, it felt like really like, what do I do from here?
The world has come to a full stop.
I didn't know what to do. Like I said, I didn't have anybody. It was just like, I didn't know what to do. So I was doing a fashion show. I don't even know how. I must have already had that booked. But I was doing a fashion show and somebody said, hey, well, I work in Applebee's. I can introduce you. I can try to get you an interview. So yeah, sure. I came down and the rest is history. Right. And I just worked and I left New York because I knew that there was a better way to raise a family than how I was doing it or what would have come if I would have just, I felt like I wanted to be able to, be the type of mother that my mother was to me and raise. That's how I knew how to raise a family a certain way. And I just couldn't see it in New York. So that's what took me out. But it was really losing that phone and really feeling like my life was coming to an end or that my career was coming to an end that led me to meeting amazing people and
opens up a different chapter.
It did. It did, and I couldn't see it then, but I see it now, and I'm.
That's how the vision works.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you for being a friend and being an authentic person in my life and in Kurt's life, and just staying connected to us.
Thank you for allowing me to be that.
Yeah, yeah. So I've been having these conversations about AI, artificial intelligence, and I want to know from your perspective as an artist, what's your opinion on AI? What is your real opinion, like, what do you think?
Well, I mean, artificial intelligence does not think. Artificial intelligence does not have emotions. Um, so as much as the powers to be can try to use it to um, cut costs and save money, try to replace the artist,
Yeah.
um, it can go but so far. And then we as artists also have to learn, because AI doesn't have any intelligence. AI is just going into a vast database and taking all the data that we as artists have put in, and the application learns it and utilizes it to get information. So we are actually the ones teaching it, and they have done such a good job over the years that we as artists create paintings from a visual artist standpoint. Um, we we title our artwork, we put that out there in the internet, and now AI has taken that and is duplicating or trying to replicate what we have done. So I think for now it appears as though AI is going to take over, but AI cannot do what the human mind can do. So we as artists just have to learn how to maneuver around it, how to use it as what it is, as a tool. Use it as what it is, as a tool, and get the best benefits we can get from it, and let we see where the cookies crumble. But I don't think, just same thing with the computer. People talk about, oh, the computer is going to take over. No, because we as human beings continue to evolve, and we continue to make new things and new avenues for ourselves. And then the computer will always have to try to keep up.
Absolutely.
So I'm not frightened or worried
so
about it.
basically, AI ain't got nothing on us.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I mean, can't they just take and duplicate one of your images?
Yeah, it has happened. They actually take, but it cannot be ILeadbydesign.
Yeah.
It can try to simulate my technique. It can try to simulate my style by going into the database and collecting all my work and putting them all together and create an algorithm or math to be able to create an artwork that looks like ILeadbydesign. But I think the essence of my work, the emotions, the spiritual connect of my work will not be there. It will just be a flat two or three dimensional piece, but it will not carry the spiritual connection that the individual gets when he or she looks at my work. I've had instances where I've done exhibits and people, because most of my work is social justice themed, people would look at my work for 10-15 minutes and don't move.
Yeah.
And they would say, I love your work, but I cannot buy this piece and put it in my home because it reminds and it triggers too much memory that I don't want to live with every day, which to me is a good thing. I don't think AI has the ability to do that. So we'll always be on top of AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I want to ask you something.
Uh-oh.
Why don't you paint to the outside of your canvases? Like, why don't you paint the whole, like I'm looking at on the side?
Or the edges.
Why Why don't you do that? I don't know if that's a particular style or if what, why?
Those people who play basketball talk about peripheral,
Mm-hmm.
peripheral vision, right?
Okay.
So you're here with the ball or you're in the center and you're able to see around you. As a people, as a culture, as a race, we have been sidestepped. We've always been in the peripheral.
I knew it was a reason.
Our tradition, you have to really study my work and you really have to get in. I'm very methodic with how I
Yeah.
do things. I take a lot of time. She gets crazy with me, but I take a long time because I overthink things. So since we as a people have been in the peripheral so often in history, how do I now keep us in the center of the piece, right? And some of the pieces you will notice will go a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right. If I'm communicating a conservative ideal, it will be more of a right stream painting. If it's a liberal ideal, it will be more towards the left. This piece is more centered towards the left because I'm trying to communicate a leftist ideology and stuff like that. So I try to keep the painting in the center because as a people and as a culture, we have been in the peripheral for too long.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. So as you look at all of the paintings, none of them are painted on the side. So that's why I asked that question.
Mm-hmm.
That's so good. What's your process like? What is your process like before you decide I'm gonna create?
The process is very painful. It's very painful. It's very traumatizing. And I struggled with that because I would listen to people who would talk about
Gosh.
painting and art being a relief, a sense of release for them. And I can go on the canvas and just paint all these
I know,
beautiful
right?
colors and these flowers, right? And I would hear them talk
Yeah.
about that and I would say to myself, it's not like that for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm broken. Something is wrong with me, right? Because most of my pieces stems out of pain, right? And when it comes to me, it comes to me in a thought or what I would hear as the voice of God or what I would deem as the voice of God. It's an experience that would come to me and it will lodge itself in my mind.
Yes.
And I cannot get that out of my head, right? And it would lodge itself. It's such a painful, traumatizing experience that it would live with me and I would not be able to sleep. I would not be able to rest properly because that painting or that image is inculcated in my head. And it becomes so burdensome that I would buy the canvas. I paint downstairs in the basement. I would buy the canvas, I'd buy the brush, I'd buy the paint. And there's this level of fear that encapsulates my entire being. And the only way I can release that is to run downstairs sometimes 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. I would wake up out of my sleep and run downstairs, take a piece of charcoal or a piece of pencil and begin to sketch it. Most artists would do 5, 6, 7 different sketches and then be able to choose which one. For me, I just do one and transfer exactly what I see in my mind or try to transfer exactly what I see in my mind onto the canvas, the way I see it and the way I'm experiencing it and the pain and all that stuff. And I'll just draw it. And as I'm drawing and as the process is getting, as the canvas is getting filled, I'm also feeling myself emptied. And I'll empty it and then I'll come back and begin to put the coats and the layers and stuff like that and begin to fine tune the piece. So for me, the experience of painting some of this stuff, the women, the pain carrying the water with the child in her back, the way the muscles stuff, the work. Because when I was doing this, I was talking to my sister about what it's like to prepare a meal, an African meal, without technology, not with the stove, not with none of that. Go fetch your water,
Yeah.
go kill your goat, go take your own, go to the market. That's without a car, get your. So the work involved in the process is what I was trying to communicate. Um, so the muscles and all that stuff, having the child tired, sleeping, crying, that you still got to carry. Um, so all that's pain and all that stuff. I try to put that in the painting.
What about the back of her head?
It was more of the cloth that they used to wrap. In Sierra Leone, we call it kata.
Yeah.
So it's something that cushions your head while you're carrying
I didn't know that.
the heavy liquid.
Okay.
It cushions your head and also provide balance. And they would carry that water miles and it won't spill a drop.
Yeah.
So that level of composure and physical control of your body, because you twitch it as you're carrying the water, you're actually twitching muscles to keep it balanced. So that's the process. Yeah.
To me, looking in the back of her head, it's almost like, yes, it's a scarf, but it's almost like it feels like kind
Circular.
of what goes on
Circular.
inside of her head.
And it's because what she does today, she has to do again tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that will be an interesting way to look at it as well.
Yeah.
Because it's a circular, it's a full circular motion. Because tomorrow,
yeah. Oh.
she doesn't want to stay on. No. Okay, here we go.
Okay. To me, it's like, to me, looking at this piece, and we hadn't talked about this one, but I really, to me, it felt like it tapped into also mental health. Looking at the back of her head, I'm like, it's so much going on in her head. It's so much going on. So I know you drew it as a scarf, but it's like that's the first thing when I look at it, of course, noticing the baby, but just thinking about what was going on inside of her head.
It's amazing you said that, because that piece right there coincides with this, because that one was uncertainty. She sits down, the woman sits down and always worried about what her life is going to be, the uncertainty, the struggle, and all that stuff. It's all part of being a woman, or being a woman of color.
Yeah. So,
yes.
Okay. We can bring a fan around. It's okay. Okay. Yep. So I heard that women make, I don't know if I'm exaggerating, but 3,500 more decisions than men make in a day. And I think that it comes from stuff like just creating the meals and, and not in every family, not in every household or whatever, but a lot more decisions are made by women. Well, we'll move right on past that one there.
I mean, there's a lot of truth. There's a lot of truths to that.
It's a lot.
There's a lot of truths to that if you want to get it, and that's because why I'm laughing is because then it leads into another conversation that's not very popular, which has always been a defense, or what has always appeared to be a defense for polygamy, right? Because that one woman is making 3,000 decisions, but then if there are other women with her in that family, she doesn't have to make all 3,000 decisions, right? Polygamy was something that was more for an economic stability, and my sister and I talk about it all the time. You can, as a woman, you cannot go fetch wood, go get water, take care of the kids, cook the meal, pound the yam, do all that stuff. So the work was divided.
Don't forget about sex too after all of that.
That's right. You gotta give it up.
Still gotta have energy.
Yeah, right. You gotta have energy to do that. Yeah. So, and the work was divided up amongst the women. So that's how traditionally Africans used to do it until the Eurocentric version of Christianity came and told them, well, you got to put away all your extra wives and stay with one wife. That's a whole different conversation.
I can feel
Yeah.
that. I can feel that. You
Mhm.
know, um, I get it. I get it. You
Yeah.
know, if it depends on, you know, how you were raised and your beliefs and, you know, everything like that. But I definitely understand that perspective of,
Mhm.
you know,
Because the family was a lot. The family was much more a stronger unit, and people were getting married more also from an economic standpoint. Because the more wives means that family, the man's family, is now connected with three other families.
ah, okay, yeah,
Right? There's three other in-laws, families, and all that economic, the wealth and resource is there available.
yeah,
So it made the family stronger. So if the family is that strong, we cannot break it.
yeah,
Right? So the only way we can break the family, the colonizers can break the family, is to,
Kill the man.
or the society is to break the family.
Yeah,
And then they came with a Eurocentric version of Christianity. Because then Paul never really talked to the man and said, you must only have one wife. He was speaking to the bishops, but that's a whole different story.
okay.
We're not gonna get
All
into that.
right.
Yeah.
All right. You know, that's
Yeah.
there's a lot that goes. There's a lot to
Yeah.
unpack there.
Mhm.
That's why some people really do believe in it and practice it,
Yeah.
and I get it.
And it's not just, you
It's
know,
not for me.
in
But I
America,
get it.
in America, most people think from a sexual perspective, but there's a lot of economic strength that comes with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So imagine 3 incomes in a home, 4 incomes in a home,
Mhm.
as opposed to 1 or 2.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Polygamy. My goodness.
we're not gonna get into
All
that.
right. All right. But I get it. You know, women would have less on them,
Mhm.
less on their heads, and the men too.
Mhm.
Um, I have another question for you. This question comes from Christian. Christian is also an artist. He draws
Mhm.
graphics, a lot of anime, things like that, or he will see something on a show and he will Google the image and draw it. I try to get him to draw me, but it's not his thing.
Mhm.
He's, you know, he's all about those
Animes,
graphic
right?
images.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you should challenge him to make an anime of you.
I would like to challenge him to create a show, an animated series. How about that?
Exactly.
But
So,
we're one thing at a time.
Because my niece, I have a niece who's 14,
Okay.
and she does that. She creates her own images, right? Her own characters, and at some point, but she has not got to the level yet where she understands the value of economics. Because then I used to make the images for her on the shirts and stuff, and I told her make the anime characters, give them names and stuff like that, and we can make little pins of the collectible pins for them.
Nice.
But she's just now stuck on just creating. She doesn't see the economic value, but hopefully she will get around to it.
Same.
Yeah.
Christian doesn't realize how many gifts he has
Mhm.
now that can do things for him. Now those things are going to continue to
Yeah. Because they're dormant.
grow.
They're dormant, and it will just eventually walk into them.
Yes.
Yeah.
He just says, I just want to be 13. I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
Do you then.
Yeah. What was his question?
Okay,
though?
his question is, what materials do you find work best for the portraits you paint? What materials do you find work best for the portraits you paint? That's straight from a 13-year-old's mouth.
Yeah. So, interesting question, because when I was growing up in Sierra Leone, I only had access to lead pencils and pens. That's all I used to draw. Then once in a while, I would get crayons. Right? I never had paint. And then I saw all these artists painting, and you go to art class and they talk to you about Michelangelo, they painted. So then we decided to use like leaves, and I would grind the leaves up, get the chlorophyll out of it, take leftover coffees, dilute them, and make colors like watercolor.
That's deep.
Right? I used to do that.
Talk about original.
Yeah, right?
Right there.
And then I came to America, I got introduced to this thing called pastels. chalk pastels and the chalk pastels, and they have the other ones that's made with like wax. And I started using that. Then after a while, I said, okay, well, let me try with acrylic paints. And then I tried with oil paint. I dabbled in oil paint. So
Were you
I
were you scared to?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it was because with pencils you can manage the lines better, right? You can just manage the lines, the strokes. With paint, if you don't get the correct viscosity, you swab, you're gonna drip.
Yeah.
So you got to get the correct viscosity and stuff like that. And I was always, because of how I was raised, I was always afraid of making mistakes because they used to give me 100 math questions and I have to get 100 of them correct. I cannot have one of them wrong, right? You are not paying attention to your schoolwork. You will have to get the 100 questions correct.
Yes.
So that built this fear of making mistakes. So I never wanted to use paint. But as I got mature and I understand that mistakes were okay, I've developed this ideology or this concept now where I mix all of it together. I mix paint, pencils, pastels, and all that stuff. I mix all them together. I buy these solvents that I mix them all with and make them fluid, and I work with them. So now I've merged this. I have this thing where I've merged all these mediums together and I work with them. So like this would be, there's pastels, there's oil paints in there, there's acrylic paints in there, depending on what I'm trying to do with texture and stuff like that. So to answer his question, he just has to, as an artist, he has to find what works best for him. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's no set thing to use. It could be a bunch of sticks. It could be an old weave that you're going to throw away. He can incorporate that into the work.
Yeah.
It could be an old shirt that he has. He can embed that or sew that into the fabric or glue it into the fabric. So there's no such thing as right or wrong fabric. What works best for you and what expresses best for you what you're trying to communicate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good advice.
Because then you limit them. Oh, I can tell them use pastel, because one of the pastels I used originally was created for Pablo Picasso, because his friend was a pastel maker and they wanted to make something that he could use to get the colors that he wants and the shapes that he wants. So they made it for him, and the formula that they used to make that pastel is still available today, and they make that and sell it. Very expensive stuff. So people think, oh, if I use that, I'm gonna work like Picasso. That's not true. Yeah. So
yeah,
you find what works best for you.
Yeah. I don't know if the camera can see, but will you tell me a little bit about the lines and the work behind the President Obama piece?
Wow. So if you notice, most of my work were like very dark earth tone colors, right? Because I was going through a phase coming to America. I'm not going to life was not easy. Being the kid from Africa, the African Buddhist scratcher, the kids picking on you in school, picking on you at work, McDonald's, Applebee's, always so driven to becoming excellent in everything I do because I didn't want to be seen as less than, or that fear of making mistakes, right? So life wasn't always easy. So to communicate that pain, or somehow it flowed out of me, I would use these strong dark colors. And most people see your art is coming from a dark place. The colors were very dark. Then listening to Barack Obama and his philosophy of hope, he campaigned on that. Hope for the future, hope in this union of 50 states, living to the true ideal of what it was. And Obama himself, being an attorney, he was top of the line, right? graduated from Harvard, da da da, wrote the editor of Harvard Law Review, and excellent. His wife, excellent. It gave me a hope for the future. So then we call them, my wife and I call it the happy colors. So I incorporated the happy colors, and he somehow gave me a sense of hope and structure. So the geometric patterns, the squares, the lines, is more structure, structure centered, structure based,
Yeah.
and that's what
Wow.
it meant. And the happy colors, because
Yeah.
we talk about every part of his life, growing up in Hawaii and all that stuff, made him made him who he was, and I tried to use that with all the
The
different colors there.
colors.
Yeah. Hmm.
Nice. Now I see. Now I understand. Because I
Most
can
artists
look at
don't.
it.
Yeah, most artists don't usually define the pieces like that. They will let the audience do it. But
Yeah.
I like to talk about it because everything in the work is purposeful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has a meaning. It has a reason why I put it there.
And it makes it so
Yeah.
much more, it touches your soul more when you understand where it comes from. And then as you're explaining it, I immediately
It
get
opens,
it.
yeah, it opens it
Of
up for you
course,
to
I'm
see.
supposed to form my own opinion, but I immediately get it. And it's just that much more beautiful coming from you, you
Thank you.
know? So that's why I'm asking. I really do want to know. And I have never talked to you about your work and what you creating and why you creating it.
And there's
I
thousands
thought
more.
I knew. I knew.
Yeah.
I did know. I knew why you were creating art and everything, but just to hear you talk about it hit different. All right. So how can we, the art community, support your work? What does support look like to you? What is your definition of how we can support you?
Like and share.
Hey, hey.
Like and share.
Yes.
I mean, it would be great to get people to buy the work. It would be great to get people to buy the work and go see
Do
the
you talk
work on
about
the
your
shows.
prices? Or is it like, you put a number on it?
Yeah, well, what I've done, one of my goals with art was to create art pieces that are affordable for every economic group, right? So I have the original pieces that are there. They're expensive.
Yeah.
But then also for those people who don't have the economic resource to do that, we talked about it. I also have the canvas prints, which is we call them giclée, which is basically a high intensity photo that is printed on canvas and stretched like an original. Those are like the cheapest or the most cost effective ones. Then for those people who say, well, I want somewhere in the middle, um, I do the canvas prints, and then I'll also retouch them by hand with paint and stuff like that, and then with a medium range. So the work could range anywhere from, depending on the size, could range anywhere from $50 up to $10,000. It depends on what your flavor is. Yeah, and sometimes I have the clients or the follow who they don't ask, can I give you this for that? Heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So depends on how the work communicates to them. Yeah. And then to make it also affordable, sometimes I would print the graphic, put them on shirts, because I developed the concept of becoming a walking museum. So I could put my art on shirts and you
not
can
just
wear that.
shirts too, right?
On bags
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
mhm.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I was curious about the price, but you can connect with Ebony on social media at ILeadbydesign. And if you can't, it's just one word. If you can't spell it, then it's probably out of your price range. So just lean into that. But at ILeadbydesign, get this beautiful artwork out there. Like it. That is literally support to help people get to the next level. For somebody who is looking to um, make money off of their art, what advice would you give for someone who wants to make money off of their artwork? I was trying to word that a little different, but
Well, for me, I always start with creating. So as an artist, there's two venues you can go. You can create out of your soul, and you can create what the society wants. You can go to Google and find out top 10 art pieces that sold for X amount of dollars, and you try to emulate that and sell that, right? Or you can paint out of your soul, which society might not like, and you won't make any money, but you might find one or two people that likes or think or that are like-minded to you and become your supporters and become your investors who will support your work that way. Um, the best way to make money out of your art is to merchandise it. Is to merchandise the art. So if you're going to make prints, if you're going to put them in different mugs, cups, and stuff like that, that's a good way to start.
merchandise.
Yeah,
That's good. That's good advice. Because I'm sure that someone will. I think even actors, even directors and producers, a lot of times people do find themselves in two different lanes where they are also able to create artwork or, create things with their hands, and they don't know what to do next. They just feel like I have this, and but where do you go from there when you know you really have something good?
but once you've established yourself as a brand, you have established yourself as a brand. Everything else that you create now, you tie it into the brand and you market it that way.
Yeah.
So if it's your niche, if it's the actor's store, you can put that in merchandise and
Merchandise coming soon.
merchandise. Yeah, I'm telling you.
Yes.
Because your supporters might not be able to support the show, but they might be able to buy a mug for $20.
Yeah.
Or a T-shirt for $25, and you can definitely work on that because the lights, regardless to what people say, we do art for the love of it, but the lights still have to get paid.
Absolutely.
The water still has to get paid. The mortgage and the rent still has to get paid. So somehow we have to keep making money.
Yeah.
Money always is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think too. I think like we do things for free sometimes. Especially when we want to or when we're passionate about it or we see the benefits of it. But I think it's important to put a price on yourself, on your brand, because it just shows how much you value yourself
and value your work.
Yeah. So for new artists, new actors, like put a price on it. Don't just let it be something that you doing because you love to do it or you want to gain the experience. Yes, we all want the experience, but after a certain amount of time, you have to say, this is what I'm doing and I'm going to hold to it. I talked to Tatiana Brown about doing background work, and Christine Horn said, how do you know you're ready to be done with doing background work? It's when it's when you can feel it. It's like, I'm done with this. It's when you make that decision. You just decide, I'm not going to do any more background work. I'm going to move into the next level of it. And I think that was something that was so powerful. So for me, I decided I'm not going to do background work anymore. I'm going to continue to go from step to step and continue to achieve and achieve until I get to lead and I stay at lead.
Amen.
You don't backtrack, you
Yes.
know? So that's just some advice. It's just important for people to hear.
Yes.
That's why I do the Actors Talk, because there were so many things that I didn't know before I got started. And for an artist to hear you say something like merchandise yourself, that's golden.
It is.
That's golden. And you probably took somebody from where they were to where they're going to be just by...
Because your materials still is a cost.
Yeah.
And notoriety, people tell you, oh, well, do the work and you get exposure, but exposure doesn't pay for the materials.
Absolutely.
When you go to the supply house to get your supplies, you can't tell them, Can I pay with my exposure card? That doesn't work. So
Yeah.
there's always a cost. There's always an economic benefit to it. So don't be afraid. Money is
Yeah.
not a bad word.
Yeah. When you said you were afraid to mess up, you know, like it's real, especially when you're not paying for the material when you were younger. Like you didn't want to mess up.
Right, but now you pay now a 2 ounce paint, depending on what, might cost you $30.
Yeah.
Or a satin might cost you $25 a yard, $30 a yard, right? You don't want to make a mistake with it. So
That's right.
because you know the cost behind it.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah.
So you know I created this as well, right?
I did not know that.
Yeah, this is all stuff that I made.
That's beautiful too. So you work with fabrics also.
I work with fabric, I do leather. I also make pocketbooks out of snake skin, leather, crocodile skins. I have the sewing machines downstairs in the basement, and I dabble in a little bit of stuff.
Where did your inspiration come from to start creating bags with that type of skin, with animal skin?
Well, necessity is the mother of invention, right? I've done restaurants for a long time. McDonald's, Applebee's, TGI Fridays. Now I am with the Melting Pot.
Melting Pot.
Right? But after COVID, when COVID happened, and the director of operation just outright looked at me and says, "You're cut. You're no longer." I was a high-level manager. You're no longer working here anymore. COVID. When can I come back? We don't know.
Mm.
So how am I going to feed my family? And we don't know. Go figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
When that happened, it triggered me. I was like, whoa. So then I remember the story of Elijah in the Bible, or Moses in the Bible, and he's getting ready to cross the Red Sea. God asked him, "What's in your hand?" He said, "Stick." He said, "Throw the stick down." Elijah, "What do you have?" He asked the lady, "What do you have?" "I have flour, I have water.
Yeah.
I'm going to bake bread. My son and I are going to eat this bread and we're going to die." The man of God says, "Bring the bread to me." Right?
Yeah.
The oil. Okay, bring the jars to me.
Yeah.
So then I said, "Okay, well, let me use what I have." Society had a need for masks.
Uh-huh.
So I went and I bought a $100 Singer sewing machine. Went on YouTube, cut the pattern, create my own pattern for masks.
Yeah.
Then begin to say, well, then I remember the company called 3M. 3M never created anything. 3M just improved on existing products. So then people were making masks and the masks were not fitting properly. And I said, oh, well, let me create something and make it better, like 3M.
Yeah.
So I started using beads, making the mask. How do I create a new niche for myself? I began to use African fabrics to make the mask. Cultural identity, representation matters.
Absolutely.
I figured out that sewing came easy for me. Okay, sewing with fabric came easy.
So you didn't know how to sew?
No.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I didn't even know how to thread a sewing machine.
If I was your wife, I wouldn't have let you buy that machine. I'd be like,
Well, she can try. But my mom was a seamstress.
Okay.
My mom was a seamstress. My mom made sweaters and clothes, elaborate stuff, right? So I don't know if I got that from her.
Mm-hmm.
And then Then I met a lady who bought from a factory that was closing all these animal skin.
Mm-hmm.
And she bought them. She owns a thrift store. And she's like, "Come give me some money for this and you can take them." Okay.
Yeah.
And I went to YouTube, began to look at people who made things with leather. Found out my machine wasn't suitable. Sold as much shirts and stuff. And the money that I made, my wife was happy. "Oh, you made money." So she realized I took the money and bought.
That's what I'm saying.
I bought $5,000 sewing machine.
Uh-huh.
Are you out of your mind? No, because I can make one bag.
Yeah.
That I can sell for $400.
That's right.
But everybody's making bags. Louis Vuitton. Why would I want your bag? So
Not like your bag.
I said, just watch me. I went to Home Depot, got wood, incorporated wood and leather and stuff, made these bags, and everybody's like, "Oh wow!" So that's how we all got started. Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah.
So God has gifted my hands, and I'm just using it.
Yeah. Well, I do like the pillows.
Yeah,
When I came in, I saw them. I
she
just thought
told
they were something you
no, she
had.
told me she needed to throw pillows.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, okay.
I always have throw pillows.
She
Yeah.
said she needed to throw pillows, and this is my favorite symbol. This symbol is Jiniami. It's Ashanti from the people of Ghana. It talks about the I fear no one but God. That's pretty much what it means. So it talks about the indomitable power of God. So I have it in my car. I basically use that. So that's what it is.
Nice.
She says, "Oh, we need some throw pillows."
Nice.
No problem. I got you. Yeah.
I didn't even know I was sitting
Yeah.
here like with this symbol and what it means
and the cloth is a mud cloth.
Okay.
It's actually woven by hand. And it's like 3 different pieces. It's woven by hand. It's a long piece about this wide, and then they actually dye it by hand, stencil it by hand, and make the pieces. Yeah.
Some of the art that comes out of Africa, and
it's incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible.
That's where we are.
Mhm. Yeah, some of the things that come out of you are incredible.
Well, thank God for it.
Yeah. So, I mean, we talked about a little bit earlier, but one of my questions for you was who influences your artwork? Not what, but who? Who? Maybe you talked about a little bit about your sister being your biggest supporter. And I mean, she must have had some influence in your work in a good way, you know. But who influences your work? Like, is there an artist that you look up to, someone that you say, you know, this is who I kind of channel, or this is where it started for me?
I don't have a specific artist per se, but one of the biggest influences right now at this present time, it's actually 2. I have Kerry Marshall, and Kehendi Wiley. Kerry Marshall, you can Google
look them up too.
Yeah, Kerry Marshall is an artist, and he paints all his characters in black. He doesn't paint white people.
Oh, okay, black people.
I mean, but black.
Oh, like black
color.
shadows.
Look at his work. Black, and then he would fade the black into grays, but it's all black. All his characters are black. And when they asked him why he doesn't paint white people, same thing, and that's where I got the notion from, that black people need to become the center of art, right? Kehendi Wiley, he's a young African American man. He moved to Senegal. He painted the official portrait for Barack Obama.
Oh, okay.
But he is so good at human anatomy, and he paints life. We call it hyper realistic paintings. When he paints you, you will not be able to tell whether it's a picture or a painting. And the scale of his work, you paint something 22 feet.
Yeah.
Big. But one of the things that struck me about him, he took a camera and went to the streets of Harlem. And he was taking everyday people, everyday women, taking their kids to school, young men sagging their pants out in the street. He would photograph them, and he would talk to them, and he would tell them, come to my studio and sit and model for me. But he would paint them in a European, like kings.
Okay.
Like those European kings.
Yeah.
And he would paint them on top of a horse, like the young boys. He would paint them riding a horse.
Yeah.
Paint them in royalty, as how he sees them.
Yeah.
So even though they see themselves as just a single mom taking their child to school, he paints them in royalty. You should see his work.
Oh man,
And
that sounds excellent.
before he starts his work, he has his assistants who would paint the flowers in the background for him. And then when his assistants are finished, he would come and paint the main character on the work. Brilliant, Kehinde
Wow.
Wiley. So those two are the two biggest influences. But God is my biggest inspirator.
Say that.
When I look at the firmament, the greatest artist
Yeah.
that ever lived, that ever existed in this universe, time and space continuum.
Yeah.
The flowers, the human beings,
Yeah,
us,
yeah.
how we are art in his canvas every single day.
The animals.
Everything,
Animals are unbelievable.
everything.
Yeah.
So that's who I look up to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's
Yeah.
good answer right there. That's where all
Yep.
that's where everything comes from.
Yeah.
Gosh, I just love deep human beings. I just really do, because I really connect. Like, it's just, I just really connect there. You know what I'm saying? So what's next for you as an artist? What would you like to see happen next? I know you talked with me a little bit about maybe sitting on some boards or something like that, but what would you say is next for you as an artist?
This exactly what we're doing now is being able to talk about the work,
Yay!
and also to create platforms.
Yeah.
To create platforms for other artists, younger artists.
What does
I can
that look
see
like for you?
taking all this down
Mm-hmm.
and bringing the young artists from across the street.
Absolutely.
Give her this platform to be able to talk about her art. And as an artist myself, talk to her about her work and challenge her future development. Creating my biggest, the vision I have right now is to buy or is to acquire a factory, an old factory, like an old milk factory, an old millwood factory, and turn it into an art or creative center where every form of painting, drawings, creating podcasts, dance, everything could be in that one building. So the artist that doesn't have a workable space, that lives in an apartment, or lives in a room, can come and work.
Wow.
The dancer who's looking for a place to practice the dance can come and practice. To create this big artistic hub where people can come and just create.
Yeah.
Yes.
People talk a lot about creating studios for filming and stuff like that, but what you're talking about is something similar, but it's so much more creative. And I haven't heard anybody say that they wanted to create a space like that. That's my first time hearing that, and I think that's so special. I really hope you see that happen.
Yeah, at the Melting Pot where I work, we have a young lady who works in with clay pottery, Marie, but she doesn't have the space to work. How can she come? She can come into a hub like that and say, I have projects in mind that I want to create, and spend 2-3 days there and create.
Yeah.
An artist might want to create a piece that's too big for the space they're in.
Absolutely.
Create.
How does that work? Like, I seen a mural here in New York, and it was just a saxophone. I don't know where I seen it at, but it was just a saxophone. Shout out to the artist.
It's in Brooklyn.
You know what I'm talking about? It's black and it's
all the way tall, right long. We finished the building.
How did they do that? How did they do a mural?
That scale.
Can you do a mural?
I can do a mural. We're not gonna get into that.
All right.
I was supposed to work on something.
Okay.
But something, So it depends on who the artist is. There's so many different tools that are available. So you can draw the saxophone on a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
It's by 11, and there are artist projectors that you can actually use and project the image onto the wall, and then now you get on a scaffold and you bring the lines in and you draw it You get the draft. Then you
Okay.
begin to work on the paint and you build the colors in, and you go from bottom up or from top down.
All
So
of the
yeah,
times where I've seen people creating big murals, I've never seen anybody project anything. It just looks like these people can
but
just do it.
but then you get the guys who with spray paints.
Yeah.
If you go further down, like Bushwick, you get the guys with spray paints. Man, they come with a crate of spray paints and they go freehand
Yeah.
till they get it. And that's just another level. There's an African guy who actually would rub the paint all over his body. I'll probably send him to you on Instagram, and he would just rub himself on the wall
Uh-huh.
or on the canvas,
Uh-huh.
and then gets the brush and then flip the canvas upside down, and it's a image.
God's
So,
plan.
yeah, God's plan. That's a whole different level.
You can't even explain that.
Yeah.
You can't even
The level of
explain
creativity.
that kind of art.
And then there was a young man about your son's age too. I'm not sure. I think he had dyslexia. So he draws, but when he draws upside down.
Oh.
And then after he finished, you can actually just have to turn the picture right side up.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Imagine your
But
brain.
he cannot draw like from top to bottom. He has to start from the bottom up. That's the way his brain is wired. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's different. That's
Mhm.
a different level of
Yeah.
spirituality right there.
Yep.
All right. So I'm just gonna pause for a minute.
Yeah.
Y'all, we good? Cameras are good. Okay. All right. Just I probably got two more questions, and I wanted to ask you too. I wanted to make sure. What you about to say? I wanted to make sure. Oh, don't let them step over. That I wanted to make sure that I addressed the things that you wanted to address too in our conversation. Like, is there something that you want? Oh, this is mine.
Oh no, he's just handing you the cup.
Where did Paul get coffee from?
he's just handing you the cup, like yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Oh yeah, I did need that drink. Oh yeah. Yeah, so anything that you wanted to address, something that you want to make sure that viewers hear from you before we finish up.
Yeah, so my thing with this whole
Are we on?
Are we on?
Okay. So I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my whole thing with this art journey, especially also for your son and those people who are aspiring to become an artist, it's a very tedious process. It's not an immediate financially rewarding process, right? So most people say, well, I'm an artist. I was born to create. So I'm going to become they call it a struggling artist, right? And they will refuse to get a secular job because they believe that they're designed wholeheartedly to create. But I would like to caution people on that sometimes it's worth you getting a secular job, because the secular job allows you to interact with people and experience things from different levels and also help you pay your bills.
Yeah.
The financial aspect is very, very important. You can't just... So for me, I have a secular job. I've always worked in McDonald's. I've always worked in TGI Fridays, Applebee's. Now I am with Melting Pot.
And not just to say like you just throwing out McDonald's like but you have been the general manager.
I've been a general manager.
Running these.
Yeah, I was a director of operations.
Yes.
Making six figures, and still continue with my artistic endeavors. So, but I've not always made six figures. I started at $4 an hour. So all through that process,
you're gonna age yourself.
Yeah,
$4.
Yeah. So all through that process of becoming, the becoming part is important, of who you're becoming as an artist, becoming that artist that you see now.
Absolutely.
You didn't just materialize. So continue the work, continue the journey, pay your bills, be able to buy your own supplies, be able to host your own shows. Don't wait for the world to give you the opportunity. sometimes you have to go out there and create that, and that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's good. That's good advice. That was going to be my next question. What advice would you have for aspiring artists who, you know, I know you said that they need to continue to work. The materials are not cheap. And if you want to be able to really create the depth of work that you want to, you don't want to not be able to create it because you can't
You're
afford.
limited.
Yes, being limited,
Hmm.
that's a real thing.
Hmm.
Um, but what advice would you have to an artist who wants to become a real working artist?
Everything that happens in levels, right? One step at a time. Pursue what you're called to do, and make sensible financial decisions. I'm not going to stop saying that. Sensible financial decisions, it's what is going to help you to get to the level you need to be, because not everybody is going to be able to provide, or you're not going to be able to get opportunities to create what you want. Because the moment they fund you, you have to create what they
They
want,
want.
how they want it. So to have that freedom, what we call artistic freedom,
Yeah.
to be able to do and create what you want, you also have to have a level of financial freedom to do that. So both go hand in hand. It's a balance.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's good advice.
Amen.
Um, once again, where can we connect with you? Where can the people connect with you, see your artwork, and learn more about what you're doing as an artist?
Just Google I, the letter I, lead by design. If you just Google that, you'll be able to see most of my work and what I'm doing with Facebook, Instagram, and all the other platforms I have available. I'm actually in the process of rebuilding a new website, and I'm going to brand my shop a little bit differently. So just stay tuned.
Including this amazing space.
Yes, amen.
Yeah. All right. So that is it for the Actors Talk. I'm so grateful again to be able to be in this moment with my friend, talking about giving out information that I know is going to help and bless somebody. What we're sitting here doing, it didn't cost us the arm and the leg, but we just are determined to be able to put out our own projects and our own productions and make things happen for ourselves. Like you said, once that funding comes, then you have to kind of create for other people. I wouldn't be able to sit here and do this if there was someone pulling my strings or pulling my purse strings. It didn't take me a whole lot of money to be where I am now. I'm in New York with my family, enjoying my vacation, but I'm also making this happen, and it didn't cost me an arm and a leg. Being able to sit here with my friend, I appreciate you.
We
Ebony
appreciate you
letting
as
us
well.
come into his studio and do this. It's not a coincidence. All you got to do is keep working, putting your heart into what you're doing, and being authentic, and it'll happen. It'll happen. Just keep going and be resilient to everything that comes. Just keep pushing through it. So thank you, Ebony, for
Thank
your
you.
time, for having me here. And this has been the Actors Talk with Gabby Kennedy.
Thank you.
We're on, girl. We
All
are
right.
live.
All right.